Okay, so let's go to the 13-minute, 17-second mark, where he's going to speak about Cardinal Holeric. Let's go ahead and begin.
Be under very serious attack. And then after Pope Francis appointed Archbishop Fernandez as in charge of doctrine in the Catholic Church, I did a YouTube video saying it's now unmistakably clear where we're being led. And I know that's a kind of a strong thing to say, but I think it's unmistakably clear where we're being led. That, lots of people say personnel is policy. Don't listen to what somebody says, but watch who they appoint, because personnel is policy. And the Pope has appointed all kinds of people who are publicly on record for not believing what the Catholic Church teaches anymore.
Can you give us one example?
Yes. Well, Cardinal Holeric, who was in charge of leading the synod, the Archbishop Cardinal of Luxembourg, gave 2 news conferences where he said, I don't believe that the Catholic teaching on homosexuality is well-founded. And then when he was appearing in a news conference shortly before the synod, somebody said, well, what about same-sex blessings? Can we bless same-sex couples? And he said, well, I think the door is open on that. And then somebody said, well, just 2 years ago, the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith says we can't bless same-sex couples because we can't bless sin.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cardinal Holeric said, well, I don't think the door is closed. I think that's still an open question. Archbishop Fernandez said the same thing. So it's pretty
clear. So if the bishops...
Okay, so a couple claims going on there. But again, you hear personnel is policy, and he is bringing up Cardinal Holeric's controversial comments that he made after he was appointed. And I can certainly share concerns with Dr. Martin about what Cardinal Holeric has said. So I'm certainly right there with him. But okay, let's go with the personnel is policy. Yeah, who made Holeric a bishop? Yeah, hint, it wasn't Pope Francis. So I think we really need to be careful with this. Some of the people surrounding Martin that he is publicly associated with, some of the clergy that he is publicly associated with, which maybe I'll mention a name here in a little bit. Very problematic figures, some of which are disgraced because of sexual abuse issues, who made them bishop and cardinal in some instances. Well, it wasn't Pope Francis, right? And so how far do we go with this criticism? If we're going to employ it, let's just be consistent. That's all. Now, you heard a second claim there that was factually not true. And it tells me that whoever is advising Martin, if he has advisors, or if he is doing his own research personally, it is very troubling, because either he has researchers who are doing a poor job, or he himself is doing a poor job. Because you just heard him say that Cardinal Fernandez also gave a pass to gave blessings as something open in the church, but he seems to be unaware of this interview that I have been shouting from the rooftops, that was made September 30th. So Ralph Martin has had plenty of time to be aware of it, where Cardinal Fernandez explicitly says to LifeSite News in an exclusive interview with them, which they hid from the public for over 3 weeks. What the church said is that the homosexual union is not blessed, because the church has a clear definition of marriage, which is a union between a male and a female open to life. So right here, very, very explicitly, as of September 30th, Cardinal Fernandez says that homosexual unions are not blessed. They cannot be blessed. The church has decided this issue. So he is factually mistaken. Is Dr. Martin merely unaware of this interview? I'll assume so. I will assume that he is not trying to be one-sided and is aware of it but doesn't want to tell us about it. I'm assuming he's just not aware of it. Fair enough. So that tells me either whoever's doing his research for him, if he has somebody, they're doing a poor job, or if he is doing the research personally, he is also doing an incomplete job. It might need some help and assistance here. So once again, let's hear that last jab that he takes against Fernandez one more time after we've compared it to the truth from what Fernandez himself has said.
Hollerich, who was in charge of leading the synod, the Archbishop Cardinal of Luxembourg, gave 2 news conferences where he said, I don't believe that the Catholic teaching on homosexuality is well-founded. And then when he was appearing in a news conference shortly before the synod, somebody said, well, what about same-sex blessings? Can we bless same-sex couples? And he said, well, I think the door is open on that. And then somebody said, well, just 2 years ago, the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith says we can't bless same-sex couples because we can't bless sin.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cardinal Hollerich said, well, I don't think the door is closed. I think that's still an open question. Archbishop Fernandez said the same thing. So it's pretty
So
clear.
if the bishops,
So he says Fernandez said the same thing, but he doesn't seem to be aware that Fernandez has also said this. So I've reviewed what Fernandez originally said, which is what Martin is thinking about. But this interview is more recent. And what Fernandez said is, look, I haven't even settled into the DDF yet. I haven't even taken office yet. When I get in office, I'm going to take a look at the issue. That's what he said. And evidently he did so. As soon as he took office, he looked into it and he said, and he clearly realizes that in 2021, Pope Francis in his magisterium said, you cannot bless sin and the church cannot do this. And so now Fernandez is just simply saying, yeah, you can't do that. So he's looked further into the issues just as he said that he would. Now, again, Dr. Martin does not present this information to us, and this mistake that he makes here is going to come back later, where he's now going to actually make an even stronger claim. And it's very problematic because he's not factoring this claim in. Now, what's interesting too is that you didn't hear anything about that interview from Fernandez in the news, did you? No. Catholic media didn't shout that one from the rooftop, did they? No, they didn't. Now, why is that? Why is that? Perhaps Catholic media, some of them aren't even aware, people in Catholic media, and others, it just doesn't jive with their agenda. Perhaps. Nonetheless, most people don't know that Fernandez said that.